The wind over the shattered battlefield carried more than dust. It carried the memory of fire, metal, and screams that had already faded into silence. Captain Sarah Mitchell moved through it like a ghost. A USA Army Special Operations officer, trained for infiltration, survival, and extraction under conditions most soldiers never lived long enough to describe. But even she knew one truth. No training truly prepares you for being alone, inside enemy territory. Ahead of her lay the ruins of Outpost K-19, a communication hub once used by Allied forces before it went dark 3 days ago. Satellite images showed structural collapse. Command believed it was abandoned. But intelligence suggested otherwise. And Sarah had been sent to confirm it. Her mission briefing had been short. Insert retrieve encrypted data drive. No engagement, no contact, 10-minute window. Simple words. Deadly consequences if things went wrong. She stepped over twisted metal beams and cracked concrete, her boots crunching softly. The sky above was gray and heavy, like it was pressing down on the ruins, watching her every move. Her tactical scanner blinked in her hand. A weak signal. Then stronger. "Got you," she whispered. The data drive was nearby. She moved deeper into the ruins, passing a collapsed communications tower. Burn marks stained the walls, fresh ones, not days old. Hours, maybe less. Her instincts tightened. This place wasn't abandoned. It had been recently active. She lifted her rifle slightly, finger hovering near the trigger. Every shadow now felt heavier. Every sound carried meaning. A distant crack echoed. Not thunder. Gunfire. Far away but real. Sarah paused. "That shouldn't be happening," she muttered. Her earpiece crackled suddenly. "Captain Mitchell, this is command. Confirm your status." She pressed her mic, approaching objective, no contact yet. A brief pause. Then, extraction window updated, 15-minute delay, hold position. Her steps stopped instantly. "Repeat that," she said sharply. Only static answered. That silence was wrong. Too clean. Too sudden. She tapped her earpiece again. "Command, confirm extraction delay." Nothing. Her pulse slowed, not from calmness but calculation. Something had changed. Something she wasn't told. She looked around the ruins again. And that's when she noticed it. The environment had shifted. Not physically, but tactically. No birds. No distant movement. Even the wind felt interrupted. Then, a faint metallic click. Sarah froze. Her eyes slowly moved upward. Rooftops. Second-floor openings. Collapsed stairwells. And there, a shadow. Then another. Then another. Red laser sights flickered into existence across her chest like glowing wounds. 1, 3, 5. More. A full circle forming silently around her. Her breath didn't quicken. It stopped. A voice echoed from hidden speakers, mounted somewhere in the ruins. "Calm. Controlled. You are surrounded. Drop your weapon." Sarah didn't move. Her grip tightened slightly on her rifle, but not enough to trigger suspicion. Her mind was already running escape routes. Left corridor collapsed. Right alley exposed. Rear exit blocked. Front open kill zone. This wasn't random. This was planned. A trap designed with precision. Her lips barely moved. 10-minute mission, she whispered, too clean. A second voice joined over the speaker. "We don't want to kill you, soldier. Cooperate." Sarah slowly raised her hands, just slightly. A signal of compliance. But her fingers stayed dangerously close to her gear. Inside her vest, smoke grenades, flash charges, a combat knife, and one last fragmentation grenade. She wasn't trapped yet. Not fully. Her eyes scanned again, faster now. Rooftop snipers. Ground-level infantry. Windows, crossfire positions. They had her locked in a perfect geometric kill box. Then she saw it. A blind spot. A section of collapsed wall near the eastern side, too damaged for visibility, too unstable for heavy movement. A risk. But risks were all she had left. Final warning, the voice said. Sarah exhaled slowly. And then, she dropped her rifle. It hit the ground with a metallic clang. For half a second, the battlefield froze. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Move in, the voice ordered. That was the moment. Sarah pulled a smoke grenade, pulled the pin, and slammed it down. Boom! White smoke exploded across the ruins, swallowing everything instantly. Contact lost. Find her now. Gunfire erupted violently, bullets tearing through smoke, through walls, through anything that might hide her. But Sarah was already moving. Not backward. Not sideways. Forward. Into the blind zone. She rolled under collapsing debris as rounds shredded the space she had been standing in seconds earlier. Her heart pounded, but her breathing stayed controlled. In. Out. Focus. She could hear them now, boots hitting rubble, shouting overlapping commands. She's in the smoke. Cut off the eastern breach. Don't let her exit. Sarah reached the blind wall section and pressed her palm against it. Weak structure. Perfect. She pulled a small breaching charge from her belt and planted it quickly. Beep. Beep. 3 seconds. Go, 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 voices screamed nearby. She didn't wait. She detonated it. Boom. The wall collapsed outward in a cloud of dust and debris. She ran through instantly. The smoke behind her swallowed the explosion as enemy soldiers rushed forward, too late. Sarah was gone. But not safe. Not even close. As she sprinted into the next zone, her scanner flickered again. A new signal appeared. Stronger. Closer. And this time it wasn't the mission objective. It was something worse. A command frequency. And embedded in it, a familiar encryption signature. Her own unit. Her eyes narrowed sharply. Someone inside the system, she whispered. Then she stopped running for half a second. Just one. Because now she understood. This wasn't just a failed mission. It wasn't even an ambush. It was a setup from within her own chain of command. And she had just escaped the first trap. But deeper in the dead zone, something far worse was already waiting. She tightened her grip on her gear and started moving again. Alone. Into enemy territory. And into a war that had only just begun. The smoke behind her was still rising when Captain Sarah Mitchell disappeared into the ruins beyond the kill zone. But escape wasn't the right word. Not yet. Because the moment she crossed the collapsed eastern wall, the battlefield changed again, like the enemy had simply shifted the board instead of losing a piece. Sarah slowed her pace, crouching behind a half-buried concrete slab. Her breathing was controlled, steady, but her mind was fully awake now. This wasn't a chaotic ambush anymore. It was organized. Systematic. She checked her scanner again. The mission objective signal, the encrypted data drive, was still nearby, but now it was surrounded by multiple moving signatures. Enemy units. Closing in. They're not searching randomly, she whispered. They're hurting me. A trap within a trap. She looked down at the ground. Fresh footprints. Boot marks. At least 6 soldiers passed through here less than a minute ago. They were fast, experienced, not regular infantry. She tightened her grip on her rifle. "All right," she muttered, "let's see how well you track silence." She moved again. Not running, not rushing, hunting quietly back. First contact. 10 minutes later, Sarah stopped behind a burnt-out vehicle frame. Ahead, a narrow corridor between collapsed buildings formed a natural choke point. Perfect ambush terrain. And exactly why she stopped. She waited. Seconds passed. Then, footsteps. Slow. Controlled. 2 enemy soldiers moved into view, scanning the area with thermal optics. Sarah didn't breathe. One soldier raised his hand. Sector clear. He never finished. Sarah dropped from above like a shadow breaking gravity itself. One hand covered his mouth. The other twisted his rifle away. A clean, silent takedown. He collapsed without a sound. The second soldier turned. Too late. A sharp strike to the neck dropped him instantly. 2 bodies down. No gunfire. No alert. Sarah exhaled slowly. This was her language. Silent survival. But then she saw something that made her pause. One of the soldiers had a patch on his uniform. Not enemy insignia. Not local militia. A classified NATO logistics marking. Her eyes narrowed. That's impossible. She crouched, checking the second soldier. Same patch. Same unit identifier. Her mind slowed for a moment. NATO support units were not supposed to be anywhere near this conflict zone. Unless... Her thoughts stopped abruptly as a new sound cut through the silence. Radio chatter. Close. Very close. She grabbed the fallen soldier's communication device and activated it briefly. Static, then voices. Target still mobile. Keep perimeter tight. Command wants her alive. Repeat, extraction of asset is priority. Sarah froze. Asset. Not soldier. Not enemy. Asset. Her grip tightened. She switched the channel frequency manually, bypassing encryption layers. And what she heard next made her stomach go cold. This is Black Directive Authorization confirmed. Eliminate any witnesses. She cannot reach extraction point under any condition. A pause. Then another voice. If she survives, it compromises internal breach protocol. Sarah slowly lowered the device. Her expression changed. Not fear. Understanding. This wasn't just a mission, she whispered. It's a cleanup. Someone didn't just want her dead. They wanted her erased before she learned why. The herding pattern. She moved again, faster now but smarter. Every few meters, she stopped analyzing terrain. The enemy wasn't just searching. They were shaping her movement. Every open path led deeper into ruins. Every safe route narrowed into tighter spaces. They were pushing her somewhere specific. A containment zone. She climbed a collapsed stair structure and looked down from above. And saw it. A semicircular formation of enemy units, tightening around the ruins like a net closing. But what stood out wasn't just the soldiers. It was the equipment. Portable signal jammers. Drone relays. Mobile command nodes. This wasn't field pursuit. It was a designed containment operation. She whispered, "They're not chasing me, they're guiding me." Her scanner beeped again. The data drive signal was now directly ahead. At the center of the containment zone. A structure still partially standing. A bunker. She zoomed in. heavy electronic shielding, multiple guards, and something else. A direct uplink tower. Her eyes sharpened. That's not a storage point, she said. That's a relay hub. A data extraction center. Which meant the mission wasn't about retrieval. It was about who accessed it. And she had been sent in blind. The first betrayal clue. As she moved along the upper ruins, a sudden vibration came from her vest. Her encrypted emergency drive activated automatically. She pulled it out. A hidden military data chip, backup protocol only accessible in extreme compromise situations. She inserted it into her wrist reader. A file opened. Her eyes scanned quickly. Mission logs. Authorization chain. Then she saw it. Her original orders had been modified after deployment confirmation. A second authorization signature had been inserted. Not from field command. Not from regional HQ. But from a classified internal division. Directive shadow layer level black. Her breathing slowed. This wasn't my mission, she whispered. This was my bait. A decoy operation. Designed to insert her into the battlefield, alone, surrounded, without extraction priority. Her jaw tightened. Then another line appeared. Subject, MITCHELL, designated as compromise risk upon retrieval completion. Neutralize on site if data exposure occurs. Silence. Even the battlefield noises seemed distant now. She had been sent to retrieve something, but never meant to leave with it. A moving witness. A disposable asset. Her grip tightened until the device cracked slightly. So that's it, she whispered. I was never meant to come back. The net closes. A sudden explosion echoed in the distance. Then another. Enemy units were advancing faster now. The containment perimeter was tightening. She looked toward the bunker again. Her only answers were there. But so was the center of the trap. A final decision point. Stay hidden and eventually be cornered. Or move forward into the heart of it. She adjusted her rifle. Checked her remaining ammo. 3 magazines. 1 grenade. 1 blade. And no backup. She exhaled slowly. All right, she said quietly, let's finish what they started. And she moved. Straight into the tightening circle. Straight toward the relay bunker. Straight into the center of the betrayal. Behind her, the enemy perimeter collapsed inward. Ahead of her, the truth waited. And it was far more dangerous than bullets. The closer Captain Sarah Mitchell got to the bunker, the more the battlefield felt wrong. Not dangerous in the usual way, but controlled. Every sound of gunfire in the distance now came in timed bursts. Every movement of enemy patrols followed a pattern, like they weren't searching anymore, but guiding her forward. She slowed near a collapsed overpass and crouched low, scanning the terrain ahead. The bunker was now fully visible. Massive, partially buried under reinforced concrete and steel plates, a faint glow of power systems still active inside. And around it, too many guards. Too organized. Too calm. Sarah narrowed her eyes. This isn't a forward base, she whispered. It's a containment core. Her scanner confirmed it instantly. Multiple encrypted signals were coming from inside the bunker, data transfers, live uplinks, and constant communication bursts. Someone was actively running operations from within a war zone. But what disturbed her most wasn't the bunker. It was the ring around it. Enemy soldiers were forming a perfect perimeter, no gaps, no random spacing, no weak points. A geometric lock. A kill structure designed not for engagement, but for capture at a single point. She exhaled slowly. They didn't want me dead, she said quietly. They wanted me here. The advance into the zone. Sarah moved from cover to cover, staying in the blind angles of collapsed structures. Every step was calculated. But the deeper she moved, the more resistance she felt, not physically but tactically. Drones began appearing overhead. Silent. Black. Scanning. She ducked behind a burned-out transport truck, just as a red scan line swept over the area. Her heart slowed, controlled. If they detected her now, the perimeter would collapse instantly. She waited. 1 second. 2. The drone moved on. She exhaled. Then, a voice echoed through hidden speakers in the environment. Not loud. Not aggressive. Calm. Almost familiar. Captain Mitchell, you are approaching restricted zone. This is your final warning. Sarah froze. That voice wasn't from enemy command. It was internal, military frequency encryption. Her own system. Her jaw tightened. They're using our channels. She adjusted her comm scanner, pulling deeper frequencies. And what she found made her blood run colder. The bunker wasn't just a relay. It was a live intelligence extraction hub. And her mission had been feeding it. The truth inside the signal. She hacked into a low-level burst transmission, using a captured device from earlier. Static cleared. Then data streams appeared. Mission logs. Deployment records. And finally, her own file. Captain Sarah MITCHLL. Status active asset. Mission role, data vector insertion. Her eyes narrowed sharply. Data vector. She read further. Her mission wasn't retrieval. It was transmission. She had been unknowingly carrying encrypted field data directly into enemy-controlled relay systems through her mission devices. Every movement, every scan, every transmission was feeding the bunker. She stepped back slightly. No, she whispered, they used me as a live conduit. A human carrier for classified intelligence leakage. And now that she was here, they didn't need the conduit anymore. Only the data. And removal of the witness. The net breaks into motion. A sudden explosion shattered the silence behind her. Boom! A collapsed wall detonated outward. Enemy troops surged forward. This time no stealth. No silence. Full pursuit. Target confirmed. Move, move, move. Sarah reacted instantly, rolling forward as bullets tore through the ground she had just been standing on. The trap had fully activated. The containment ring was collapsing inward. She ran. Vast. Through burning debris, shattered concrete and collapsing structures. But now the battlefield was no longer random. It was directional. Every escape path funneled her closer to the bunker entrance. She saw it clearly now. They weren't trying to stop her. They were delivering her. A live package straight to the core. She skidded behind a metal barrier as gunfire erupted above her. Her breathing remained controlled, but her mind was racing. If I reach that bunker, she muttered, I either find answers or I disappear. Another explosion rocked the ground. A drone dropped flares overhead. The entire zone lit up like daylight. She was exposed. Fully visible. The hunt had turned into a spotlight execution field. The almost capture. Sarah sprinted toward a narrow passage between two collapsed walls, the only remaining blind entry path. She was fast. Too fast for most soldiers. But not fast enough to avoid the sudden flashbang that detonated ahead. Boom! White light swallowed everything. Her vision collapsed. Her ears rang violently. She stumbled but kept moving blind. Stop her! Bootsteps closed in from all sides. She raised her rifle instinctively, firing toward the sound. One soldier dropped. Another, but more replaced them instantly. She was losing ground. Vast. Then, a strong impact hit her shoulder. She fell hard into the rubble. A soldier grabbed her arm. Got her. Sarah reacted instantly. Elbow strike, twist, break, hold. She rolled away, gasping, vision still partially blurred. But now, she saw it. The bunker entrance. Open. Waiting. Like a mouth. And behind her, the entire perimeter force closing in. This was it. The final push. Capture or collapse. She stood slowly, breathing heavy, rifle raised, and whispered, "So this is where it ends." Then she tightened her grip and ran straight into the bunker. Inside the trap, the moment she crossed the threshold, everything changed. Silence. No gunfire. No wind. No chaos. Just cold, artificial light. The bunker doors sealed behind her with a heavy hydraulic sound. Clang. Lockdown engaged. Sarah stood still for a moment, then slowly looked around. Clean corridors. Active systems. No debris. No damage. This place was not abandoned. It was operational. A voice echoed again through internal speakers. But this time, it wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the bunker. Inside the system. Inside the structure itself. "Welcome, Captain Mitchell." Sarah slowly raised her rifle and stepped forward. Because now, there was no turning back. Only truth. Waiting in the dark. The bunker doors sealed behind Captain Sarah Mitchell with a sound that felt less like metal locking and more like a decision being made for her. Clang. The entire structure went into lockdown. Red lights shifted to steady white. Air systems activated. The silence inside wasn't empty. It was controlled, monitored, processed. Sarah stood still for a moment, rifle raised, scanning every angle. No enemies. No movement. Only corridors stretching forward like veins inside a machine. "This isn't a bunker," she whispered. "It's a facility. A hidden intelligence hub, buried under a war zone." Her boots echoed softly as she advanced. Each step felt heavier, not because of fear, but because of understanding. The deeper she went, the more everything felt designed for one purpose: to bring her here. At the center corridor, a large reinforced door opened automatically as she approached. No manual entry. No resistance. Like it already knew she would arrive. Sarah tightened her grip and stepped inside. The core room. The room was massive. A circular command center surrounded by holographic data screens, rotating maps, and encrypted military feeds from multiple conflict zones. At the center stood a single console, and behind it, a figure, not armed, not armored, just standing calmly, as if waiting for a scheduled meeting. A man in military intelligence uniform. No insignia visible. Only a small embedded code on his collar. Black directive oversight. Sarah didn't lower her weapon. "Identify yourself," she said firmly. The man didn't turn immediately. Instead, he spoke calmly. "You made it further than expected, Captain Mitchell." Her eyes narrowed. "Answer the question." He slowly turned. Middle-aged, calm expression. No panic, no hostility. "Only control." "My designation is irrelevant," he said. What matters is that you are now inside the system you were never meant to see. Sarah stepped forward slightly. This was a setup from the beginning. A faint smile. Yes. One word. No hesitation. That honesty hit harder than any gunfire. Sarah's jaw tightened. Why me? The man walked slowly around the console. Because you are reliable, skilled, and most importantly, he paused, disposable without raising suspicion. Her grip tightened on her rifle. You used me as a data carrier. Correct. You turned me into a signal vector. Yes. Silence followed. Heavy. Then Sarah asked the real question. What was I carrying? The man stopped and tapped the console. The screens behind him activated. Millions of encrypted lines of intelligence data appeared. Military position, supply chains, satellite feeds, strategic locations. And then, a classified overlay. Global Command Fragmentation Protocol. Sarah's eyes sharpened. This is Global Military Network Access. The man nodded. A distributed command system used by Allied forces, fully encrypted, impossible to breach externally. He looked at her, except through a human carrier already inside the field. Her breath slowed. So I wasn't retrieving data. You were delivering access to it. A pause. And now, he added calmly, we have full entry. Sarah felt something shift inside her chest. Not fear. Realization. She had been used as a bridge between systems. A living infiltration tool. And now that the bridge had reached its destination, it was no longer needed. The betrayal revealed. Sarah stepped closer. Who authorized this? The man exhaled slowly. Multiple agencies, competing interests, a controlled convergence operation. Her eyes darkened. That's not an answer. He looked directly at her now. You were chosen because you wouldn't question your orders. That hit deeper than any bullet. A long silence followed. Then Sarah spoke quietly. So I was never supposed to come back. No, he admitted, but your survival rate exceeded expectations. Her grip tightened. And now you're improvising. The man nodded slightly. Now we adapt. Sarah slowly lowered her rifle just a fraction. Not surrender. Calculation. You're wrong about one thing, she said. The man tilted his head. And what's that? Sarah's eyes sharpened. I do question my orders. I just wait until I understand the battlefield first. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his expression. The system fails to predict her. Alarms suddenly echoed through the bunker. Not external. Internal. Red alerts. System instability warnings. The man turned sharply toward the console. What did you do? Sarah didn't answer. Instead, she pulled the device she had recovered earlier from the battlefield, the encrypted chip. But now it was modified. She had inserted a virus loop during her entry through the bunker systems. A small exploit, hidden in silence, just like her fighting style. She stepped back. You built a system that only works if it trusts everything inside it, she said, including me. The screens flickered. Data streams began collapsing. You've triggered a full rollback cascade, the man shouted. Sarah turned toward the exit corridor. Not a rollback, she said calmly, a correction. Behind her, systems began shutting down one by one. Security doors unlocked. Surveillance failed. The bunker started losing control. The man rushed forward. You don't understand what you've done. Sarah stopped at the doorway. Without turning, she replied, I understand exactly what I've done. Then she activated a final charge on the console. Beep beep. And walked away. Escape from the core. The bunker shook violently as internal systems collapsed. Emergency lights flashed. Lockdown protocols failed. Sarah ran through the corridor as alarms screamed around her. The structure that once felt like a prison was now breaking apart from the inside. Gunfire erupted again behind her, but disorganized now. Confused soldiers. Broken command structure. She reached the main exit chamber. Locked. Not anymore. She placed a small breaching charge. Boom. The exit door blew open. Cold air rushed in. Real battlefield noise returned. Chaos outside. She sprinted out just as the bunker behind her began collapsing inward. Explosions rippled through the structure like a chain reaction. The hidden facility that controlled intelligence flow across the war zone was imploding. And Sarah was running free. Final moment. She reached a ridge overlooking the ruins. Behind her, the bunker was burning from within. Signals were dead. Networks collapsing. The battlefield was suddenly different. Less coordinated. Less controlled. Like something invisible had just been removed from it. Sarah stood still, breathing heavily. Dust on her uniform. Smoke in the distance. Silence returning to the war zone. She looked down at the broken battlefield below. They built a system to control war, she whispered, and forgot that soldiers still survive it. Her radio crackled faintly. A broken transmission. Captain Mitchell, do you copy? She looked at it for a moment, then turned it off. Not angrily, not emotionally, just decisively. She started walking away from the ruins. Alone. Not as a trapped asset anymore. Not as a carrier. But as something the system didn't account for. A survivor who had seen the structure behind the war and walked out of it. And behind her, the battlefield slowly returned to chaos. But this time, it was uncontrolled.